Hello, beautiful Gemini, and welcome to March 2020. We are getting into some real good catalytic stuff this month. I tell you what. Of course, this is always an interesting time of year for you all. As March unfurls, we're into your 10th and 11th houses, which are kind of big, bold energies about how you connect to the world around you. As we move through Pisces season into Aries season, all of that mutable energy is getting lit up with all that Mercury moving from Aquarius through Aquarius, finishing its retrograde on the 9th, or the 10th, and then moving forward through Aquarius back into Pisces. We have a full moon in Virgo in your 4th house of your home and your family and who you are. And then we have the equinox, the sun shifting into your 11th house of your friendships and your community, a new moon in Aries. But here's the really big thing. Yes, your ruling planet's doing its dance. You're used to this. You're ruled by Mercury. You understand that things fluctuate and move. That's part of one of your gifts. But the big news really is that Saturn is moving, and I'm excited for this shift. We're only getting a preview of it because Saturn is moving into Aquarius. Now, we have been working with Saturn in Capricorn for over 2 years. We've been doing some very specific learning. For you all, this has actually been very much tied to your house of death and rebirth, very much tied to the underworld, to the unseen. You have been one of the signs doing some really deep, heavy-hitting work when it comes to who you are, being okay with your darkness, being okay with certain loss of aspects of self. All of that work's been going on. Moving into Aquarius, this is really fun because we shift from that deep underworld behind the scenes energy into your philosophical house, into your worldview house. But here's the thing. Saturn in Aquarius does not want status quo. He's not interested in this whatsoever. And the big note that came up for me when I started looking into Gemini energy is that this is a time when your worldview on how you are valued, how you move through the world is getting hugely shifted. And this can feel a little unstable. And I have to say, just with the shift with the equinox, with the shift of Saturn moving right after that equinox, with the new moon happening right after that, and then with Mars entering Aquarius shortly after that, there's a lot of energy that feels a little unstable. It feels a little flammable even, as we move so quickly. Page of Wands. And that instability could be a little scary at first. However, I think this is actually a tool in your favor. Because what it's going to do is shake loose beliefs that maybe have snuck along Two of Pentacles for the ride. We often catch our big stories, our big mythologies that have held us back. We all have those painful memories of something that happened when we were younger, 9 of Wands, that informed maybe how we got into relationships or how we felt about money or our worth and work, whatever it is, right? We all have those, and a lot of us who do the work and show up to our lives, we pick those out. We pick those out, we do the work, we show up. 9 of Swords. But there's always they're a lot more subtle, but they're actually really profound, and they have huge impacts on our lives that sneak along in our hand baggage when we didn't know that they had been sneaking along. And actually, the energy in March is really useful for you, Gems, to find those little hidden places. 10 of Cups, I love it. To find those little hidden places, to find those little beliefs. Let me think, because I'm thinking of an example within myself. I had a belief, this is a really interesting one. I think it's a fun way to interact with the world. I had to do some paperwork, just not the most inspiring stuff, right? This year, this last month, I had to do some paperwork. And yeah, I was feeling my usual, paperwork. Judgment, release, huge release month this month, huge liberation energy going on. So I had to do this paperwork, And I'm feeling the usual feelings of like, ugh, I just don't want to have to do this, like wanting to drag my feet, not wanting to sit down and just fill this stuff out. And, rather than just being like, well, obviously I don't want to do this paperwork and just taking it for granted that paperwork sucks and we all hate it, I was like, I'm going to look at my reaction to this paperwork a little more deeply. I'm going to peel off that cover of just, oh, paperwork is just annoying. I'm going to question that. And I found something really interesting under there, right? It wasn't like I was having big emotions about this paperwork. I wasn't like crying in a ball in the corner. It wasn't stopping me from living my life or being in a pretty good mood, but it was enough to where I was like feeling resistance to it, feeling unhappy about it, just on that low grade level. So I peeled back, Queen of Cups, love it, peeled back that layer. And what I found under there was an underlying belief that I wasn't worthy. Like, who knew it was sitting there under the paper, right? It was like this feeling like I'm filling out these papers, I'm going to do it wrong. Whoever's going to look at the papers is going to judge me and say that I'm doing something wrong. The other really big thing that came through for me too is like my resistance and my frustration with being like just a cog in the machine and feeling dehumanized by the paperwork. Maybe that's a valid one, right? But at the same time, it's like, do I let sitting down and doing this paperwork dehumanize me? Because I'm letting it do that, right? So like all those little subtle beliefs, and then that really got me into thinking about how I think about what I have to do, what I need to do. It was really powerful. And Ten of Pentacles. Dang, gems, you've got some really, really great energies here. You do. But, this is the type of work I'm talking about with the paradigm shift and like the huge shifts in your worldview about who you are in this world, what you're supposed to do in this world. We're getting a really big preview with this Saturn shift. And like I said, it's going to go retrograde not long after it moves a little bit of the way through Aquarius. Then we'll go back over those first degrees of Aquarius, and it's going to go back to Capricorn for the second half of the year. And then it's going to be in Capricorn until the end of the year. But then the next 2 years, so 2021 and 2022, we are going to be working with Saturn in Aquarius. So this month is a really great, the next 2 months, 3 months, really great previews of what it is we're going to be working on next. What it is we're going to be building containers in next. We've been doing all this work with Saturn and Capricorn. We've learned a lot. We've changed a lot. We've grown a lot, but now it's time for a new set of lessons. So just notice that. And because it's hitting into a fellow air sign of Aquarius, this is very much about your philosophy and your paradigm. You're going to be feeling it. I mean, I actually think, when we have Saturn going through a sign that we trine with, that we flow with, it can be very productive as long as we're not fighting the process. Now, let's look at these cards. Because right away, it's really interesting. There's some kind of decision that needs to be made, something that needs to be parsed out that is really causing you some mental unrest, which, I mean, if we're being honest, Gemini, you know that you like to get in your head about stuff a little too much at times, right? Because we have this Page of Wands, this news bringer who's like, hey, here's an opportunity. Here's a new step forward. Let's go. Let's go on this journey together and let's play. And that Gemini part of yourself that wants to play and explore and try new things is like, yes, let's do it. I want to go play. I want to go explore. Let's do it. And then the analyzer comes in. The survivor, the world-weary warrior, the worrier, the logical weighing out voice comes in. Now, these three cards are really interesting, all in a line like this, because these are the representations that are not our intuition. They're not that guidance system where it's just something just feels right. You can't put onto paper all the pros and cons of it. It just feels right. It feels good to make that phone call, to say yes to that job, to go on that walk, what have you. These are kind of the other side of that, which is when something maybe looks good on paper and you can write out exactly why it's good for you, and it can still feel like you have to drag yourself to show up, right? Two of Pentacles is all about that indecisive feeling like you have to control everything, like you're in charge of everything, and if you don't show up to a certain way, things will fall apart. Nine of Wands is looking for that hidden danger that will take you down and destroy you. Nine of Swords, similar, like thinking through everything you've ever done wrong and why something can't work. These are all very much, and they're three different elements of the same kind of feeling that you have to control via overanalyzation. I think this is really interesting because, like I was saying, with this really big paradigm shift, with this huge leap in shifting energy, as we work Pisces into Aries season, as we work with Saturn moving, we work with the equinox, we work with the full and the new moon this month, which are all just kind of very much exacting as far as clearing clutter out mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's just, there's like no there's no tolerance here in these transits for holding on. But what is going on here is you are sitting and communing with the part of yourself that comes up, like whips up all these stories about how you've got to be more, you've got to show up more, you've got to hold all these responsibilities, you need to explain things away, all of that. And here's what's interesting, showing up 3 cards in a row like this. For me, this is something to not just like shrug off and ignore. Be like, yeah, I always do that. Like I was doing with that paperwork, right? Where I was just like, ugh, it's just not making me feel good. But like my initial response was to just do what I usually do, which is like, I'll just force myself to sit down. It's going to take 30 minutes. I'm going to fill it out. It will be fine. But I decided to peel off that cover, right? And just look, just investigate around. And that's what I'm asking you to do here, because you're going to investigate around on those little points. It does not have to be the big stuff. And find where you have beliefs that you've got to hold yourself back, where you have beliefs that you have to do it the hard way, where you have beliefs that you have to analyze and think through everything all the time. All of that's coming up, because here's the thing. The top 4 cards are freaking gorgeous. I love them. Keep getting the good stuff here, Geminis. 10 of Cups, Judgment, Queen of Cups, 10 of Pentacles. I know the Judgment card is in there, but here's the thing with Judgment. Judgment is a liberator. He liberates us, it liberates us from old trauma and pain. By witnessing it, by forgiving it, by being kind to it, by giving it fresh air instead of hiding it, pushing it down, restricting it, we trumpet it forward. We connect with it, we commune with it, we understand it, we release it, we are free. That is very Saturn and Aquarius energy, I will say. Saturn and Capricorn was a lot more about like digging into the dirt and then being under there and looking at our foundation and getting really serious about control and all of these things. So when Saturn moves into Aquarius, it's going to be like, okay, you've gotten into the heart of the mountain. Now it's time to come back out into the light. There are new structures and new foundations to build. And so Judgment here is working in that way. What is Judgment trying to get you to do though here? You know, because I would argue it's interesting, all this judgment, this self-judgment, this self-analysis, this constant needing to juggle, to look inward, to analyze, to force. Judgment is saying, you know, throw all of that aside. What are the things you don't have to overthink that work? Because that's what 10 of Cups, Queen of Cups, and 10 of Pentacles is all about, right? It's the things that work even when there are pain in the butt parts of it, right? It's like, even in the best relationships, right? You know, you like love your partner. You appreciate your partner. It's really a good space, right? But maybe they are a morning person and you're a night person. So sometimes your schedules clash, or, you know, one of you likes to eat a certain food and the other one just hates when the house smells like it. There's like every relationship has those weird things. And you could write down all the reasons why this relationship is problematic, because But how do you actually feel about the relationship? You love it. It feels good. Vice versa, maybe you are in a job or in a living situation where it's like you can list out every single reason why. It's practical, it saves you money, it's clean, it works, it's in the right location, and you can still feel like it is just the last place you want to be. And that feeling will never go away. So once again, peeling off that cover layer and really looking at the essential components here. Is it from a place of this big destiny activation? Now here's the thing, yes, do that self-work, show up to where you feel anxious or where you feel resistant, see what's coming up, see where you have old belief patterns that are getting loud or strong. However, I will say this as well though, these cards are telling me that you're getting a lot of input. You're getting a lot of infusion of support in your relationships, in your career, and where you're going next. And that there's a lot of big, beautiful, bold doors opening right now. And I really want to reiterate here, yeah, these are big ticket cards. They are the big ticket items that you've been longing for. I will say though that those big ticket items often start off by coming in with lots of little signal posts, lots of little shifts. And they build and they build and build, and then finally you see yourself in this new landscape. So depending on where you are in your journey, you may be just getting those little nuggets. You may be getting huge wallops of it. It's all about preparedness. And for each time you get a new opportunity, a new open door, a new energetic opening, you're also going to need to take the time to contract, to check in with yourself, to reconnect with your roots, to hear that scared voice, to hear that old limiting pattern, and to choose whether you're going to buy into it or you're going to commit to this next phase. And you get to choose. You get to negotiate all of those terms. But I will say this, it always comes back to really simple wisdom. It's never about the long-winded story that takes you around 10 loops. It's always coming back to how you feel, how you believe about that feeling, and whether or not you're going to let yourself lean into it or shut down. So you're going to be finding there's a dialogue going on between that opening and that contraction. And if you're willing to work with the open and contraction that's going on all of March, I think you'll find that you are actively shifting some of your paradigms, some of your belief systems, some of the ways you've maybe thought of yourself in past years. So that's really, really exciting. And I love this energy so much for you, Geminis, because this is really beautiful and there's a lot of opportunity going on here. There's a lot of movement that is in favor of you. I think especially once Mercury is direct and once we're heading more toward Aries season and you have that Aries new moon, you have all this energy that's lighting you up and connecting you with others. That's very, very supportive of you moving forward. We are getting kind of out of the muddier waters of that earth and water energy and much more into the air and fire that serves your hearts and your desires. This is going to be a really beautiful season for checking in with that. Keep in mind, my friends, I just want to throw this in there. I'm getting ahead of the present moment. Forgive me, but just keep in mind in May and June, we're going to be having a Venus retrograde in your sign. Venus retrograde is a profound transit. It is huge. And I'm getting chills even talking about it. It's one of those transits where we do some really important homework. So Geminis, just kind of keep in mind the next 4 or 5 months are really profound for you getting to re-envision your life and your potential and who you are going to be next. This is a really potent time for you. I am going to be offering all sorts of resources for the Venus retrograde, for all these big shifts. And of course, before we even get there, I'm going to be offering Saturn in Aquarius resources over on Patreon, equinox activation resources, all sorts of goodies that you can connect with me over there. I might even do a couple of lives over on Patreon where you can connect with me and ask me questions and we can talk about what's been going on. So if you are interested in joining me over there, I would love to see you. I will leave the link below. We're going to be doing so much fun stuff in March. And you can also hop on over there to join me in the last couple sessions of the Mercury retrograde activation as well. I will be opening up some sessions in the next few months. I roll those sessions out as my schedule gets clearer. I'm going through a lot right now in my life, like good stuff, but yes, it's making scheduling interesting for me at the moment. So if you're interested in getting a session, I will leave my booking link below so you can see my calendar when I update it. I will also announce my updates on my Instagram at Sarah Verba. So if you haven't joined me over there, I would love to see you. You can also find PinkLune's gorgeous jewelry, as always, on her beautiful Etsy shop. She hand makes everything with a lot of love. I'll leave her link below. I will send you all the goodies. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you again in April.